What the fuck?
What is the name of this place?
What is Mickey Mouse doing to that Smurf? Welcome to the Rewatchers on the pod, where we are about to take the last bite of these leftovers. You're here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
all right, and here's what happened in the last two episodes of the leftovers, as written and explained by our one and only, the Tyler McKinley. Here we go. Episode 7. The classic intro. How long ago was that for us now? Like a year? Yeah. Mary Magdalene was responsible for Christ's beard. Jesus doesn't really jive with the Ukrainians. Dog Sandwich Man thinks Ukrainians are dogs. Christ is going to assassinate the POTUS. The GOP is in shambles at the thought of their two gods fighting. Save me, President Jesus. I'm bored in the USA. Liam don't give a damn about shoes. Evie is in denial of her death. Christ is back because he forgot his keys, but he's going back to be dead for your sins in a second. The door to the Holy of Holies just won't open without President Jesus' dick. Godfather Part 2. That would be Christ's favorite. A bunch of Roman descendants betraying and killing people. Patty, Secretary of Defense Levin. Liv, Vice President. Oh, fuck, it's Meg again. Tyler. Grab his dick and scan it. Meg's in love with God, but gets banged by another man. Jesus Christ has gone rogue. It's a rebellious teen phase. Probably be over by his 30s. Kevin don't believe in rain songs. Patty is Lazarus. We all know Jesus put his ass right to work after waking him up. Romance novel endings lead to self-harm. Too real. Beach Boys. Are we going to hear 5 more covers of this song before the end? Nuke Purgatory. Who needs it? Guess who's back? Back again. Christ is back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Nah. No, what happened? And Kevin Sr. is not ready to come down yet. You know when you see the path laid before you and know that you're being forced to walk it? Yeah. Episode 8. Nora does a Twitch stream warm-up. Nora gets shown on the doll where the radiation will touch her. Matt and Nora Mad-lib her obituary. If Matt was a great great gecko, he would have sold more insurance policies by now. Okay, yeah. Oh, shit. Christopher Eccleston is the best actor on this show. Nora pigeons out. Nora denies the Christ to one of his wives. New/old Kevin is a creepy stalker. Nora and shitty houses. Name a more iconic duo. Rural Australian weddings are just rural Idaho high school proms. Nora's doves have flown the coop. Nora has a gusty bike pedaling. Nora eats shit. The sins of the wedding party have this goat on the fence. Kevin spills the tea before being offered more. Nora was the Christ the whole time. All right. There it is. That's the end of the show.
Have you seen that video of the person who gets the sheep unstuck from the fence and it just tumbles down the hill after he frees the sheep?
No.
Yeah. You should look that up. Sheep falling downhill. Probably find it for you. It's the only thing I could think of when that goat was stuck in the fence.
Oh, no. Well, a lot to talk about, I'm sure. Let's start with the President of the United States and his twin brother. Or whatever the name of that fucking episode is. So yeah, I don't know. What were you guys' initial thoughts on Kevin returning to the Black Lodge? I mean, the afterlife. I mean, he really wants to be David Lynch. I don't know. What did you guys think of that?
Was my takeaway supposed to be self-reflection is hell, so don't?
I don't think that was implicitly their goal, but if you felt that, it's valid, and we're here for you.
Okay, so no more therapy.
or more. I don't know. I don't know.
No, the show told me no. We accept without question the things that are told to us. Or I do, apparently.
Yeah, what a wild ride. It's almost like these episodes feel kind of like, it's almost like this show's version of a clip show. Like in the 90s when they had sitcoms, they're like, we don't want to write a script this week, so you're just going to remember clips from the last 20 episodes we already fucking wrote. And these episodes are like, we're putting every character that we've ever made into this. The dog guy's just back, and he's like living his fucking truth is just a goddamn like special forces man, which is really good. But yeah, there are a couple like moments in this that I don't think I noticed till I think the second time I watched this episode. But whoever did the Foley for Kevin's dick being put on the skin, it's just like that thunk of which is really, really amazing. And like I don't know, this is like one of those episodes where it's like there's some really great stuff, and I really love this episode, but like there's also some stuff that's just like almost, to Gwen's point, maybe points to the idea that's like, really, seriously, none of this fucking matters. Like nothing fucking is real or matters. Like it's just whatever you want it to be. And like wow, what a horrifying and comforting thought at the same time, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I think there's still a lot of things like, and we kind of talked about this going into this show, like there's still a lot of things that I don't know if they're important or understand, or I'm not entirely sure what the show thinks is important.
I've no idea.
I've been trying to figure that out with this episode, specifically episode 7, because like it feels very like the way things are presented feel like I'm supposed to be like, what is this a symbol for? Like it feels like it's got that kind of vibe going. Like this is all very, in episode 8 as well, both of these episodes just feel like there's like somebody who was really obsessed with some sort of symbology behind everything. At least that's what it feels like, but I can't figure it out, and that's kind of like driving me a little bit crazy. Like what is it that I was supposed to get from what I'm seeing here? I don't know. I'm having a hard time. I think episode 7 especially, just because like I don't know, like it feels like there's so much more depth behind what is being shared, but I haven't been able to get into it yet. And it makes me feel a little dumb, and I don't like that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But I think there are some things too where it's like, I mean, I think specifically about the conversation with Evie, like in the limo, and like it's like there just are no answers, I guess is what the show is saying. And it's like, I don't know, like it's really, at times it's really unsatisfying. I think it's like one of those moves where it's like, this feels like a bold step that you're taking and also a cop out based on like the rest of the show leading up to this point. And so it's, I don't know, it's frustrating, but it's also like, that episode is one of my favorites just because I do like the idea of just doing a fucking weird episode where a man wakes up and is the president of the United States and his own brother and has to dig his own heart out of his chest. And like, I don't know. So it's really bizarre.
That's really the only stuff for me that felt like it was really meant anything.
Sure.
Was the stuff with like the twin and the conversations like with Patty and a little bit with Meg.
Yeah.
But like everything else just felt like it was there to be like, I don't know. We had to come back here because we set it up in 2 other episodes, and this is what happens when Christ dies. So,
well, and I think, I mean, I guess if you're gonna like, I think going along with that of like, if those are the most important parts of this episode, and then we have that episode with Nora, which is essentially about them getting back together or whatever, like, is that what the show is saying? Is that the big questions don't matter? It's the little, like, the things in your life within your direct control. Like, I don't know. It's but even that, I'm like,
It's really hard too, because I feel like a lot of it is, at least for me, it feels like not enough is there for me to say, this is definitely about this.
Right.
It's more like, this feels like it's whatever you very much personally take away from it. I feel like where kind of my read on that whole thing was very much of a sort of how I've kind of felt about the whole show, with it being very, the uncertainty is kind of part of it. It's more of like a reflection of our understanding of the afterlife and the meaning of life and why things happen. And it's just like, without, like, it doesn't want to it doesn't want to be like, there's nothing. You die and there's nothing. We're Jon Snow in this, and when you die, it's just nothing. Like, it has plenty of critiques on spirituality and religion, but also being like, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
And you don't either, because we're not going to tell you, like, in the show. I don't know, that's kind of my takeaway, and like kind of the nuking of it at the end was kind of that, like, this doesn't really matter, and I'm not going to answer it, and kind of maybe also, if you want to bring in the other symbolism from like the rest of the other crazy stuff of like, and all this bullshit in life doesn't matter, we're nihilistic. I don't know if that's what it's going for, but the big takeaway I got was just that is playing into that uncertainty of, that's the question we're all asking in life, or at least most people are asking, and that is what the show is also like. It's not necessarily asking, it's just, I don't know, stop asking. I don't know. Like, it's.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think it's like it's finding company in that uncertainty, I guess, and like, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really good read on it. I actually really like that. But yeah, I mean, outside of the bigger questions of like this episode, I was real glad to see Ann Dowd again, just because. Honestly, I think on this watch it solidified, like, she's probably my favorite like performance in this show. Mostly just for, I mean, well, her stuff in the first season is amazing, but man, the stuff of hers in Kevin's mind is just some of my favorite shit. That is so good.
I did miss Patty.
Yeah.
I fucking hated her in the first season.
Yeah.
And then by like the second season, I was like, what would we do without you?
You have become Kevin.
But yeah, I mean, I think that, and I wonder too, like with that episode, because I mean, for me, like the stuff with Evie and the stuff with I'm just gonna forget her name, the Australian lady's kids, Grace, thank you. Like that stuff, I'm like, it doesn't really feel like anything. Like it feels like that conclusion is just like for me, it doesn't really connect. But is that the point? And is that something? I guess the other thing I'm left asking is that something that does connect with Grace when Kevin tells her of how that went down? You know what I mean? Is that something? Is that like an answer that's satisfying to her, or gives her anything, or is she left questioning? And I don't know. From watching the episodes, I don't know that I can say, you know, for her if that did or did not. And so
it's like based on her face, it was not what she wanted to hear.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what I come away from it too.
Yeah, and like telling John that that Kevin was able to deliver John's message. Like yes, he did that, but there was still like all this other stuff that, I don't know, like what you're saying, like it's just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain this. Like, It happened, but it just doesn't matter either. Within the context of the episode, and like, what does that say about the desires of these people, like our desires in life? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because both of them are essentially both these people. The only reason they want that information is just to kind of closure and peace, right? Like to be able to carry on. Whereas I don't know if that's an intentional choice, if I'm making this up or not, but it feels like John, the reason he kind of lies to John tells him kind of a half truth, is because I guess he feels like John, and we've kind of been presented that in the show. John's like say it and we'll go home in that other episode. Like, it seems like that information will put him at peace. Whereas Grace, it seems like she's kept finding things to feel empty about. And that shoes is just another thing. I don't know if that was intentional or not. But yeah, I mean, I think that goes along with it of if they answer that, like if those people, like if both the kids in that world are themselves, that kind of they'd be forced to answer the question of what happened to the I guess no, what happens to people when they die.
Sure.
Like yeah, that's a good point.
More fully, so they had.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was just them digging themselves in a hole, or if that was intentional to kind of go along with what I was saying earlier of like, we don't know.
Yeah.
I think I have a little bit more of a pessimistic read on it because he could say to John, "I delivered your message," and that half-truth gives him peace. But if he said, and I mean, I guess we didn't find out where the shoes were anyway, but if he had like made something up like the shoes were under the cactus 6 miles away, she could have gone and looked and verified that was bullshit.
Sure.
And that would have, like, I don't know, it seemed to like swerve into charlatan territory a little bit. Like a little bit like the fortune tellers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, because we talked about briefly, I think it was maybe a couple episodes ago, but the idea that, the fact that Reza Aslan is a consulting producer on these last 2 seasons, and the idea of someone who has the ability to like go to whatever this afterlife is, but also the idea that they have still no idea what the fuck is going on, seems kind of in line with like maybe Reza Aslan's idea, you know, even just like on the little that I've read of his book of Zealot and stuff, you know, which very much presents Christ as a human figure. Is that the idea that like we have all these spiritual leaders, we have all these spiritual figures like throughout history, but they actually really only knew maybe a little more than the people around them, or you know what I mean? And so I don't know. Like, I feel that in Kevin for sure. Because I definitely don't get the idea that Kevin knows what's going on either. You know what I mean? I don't think that he tells her about the shoes and secretly knows what that means. Like, he's just like, he literally is just this messenger conveying what he has seen. And so, yeah, it's all really interesting. And I think that maybe, you know, that the fact that the most concrete thing that Kevin learns pertains specifically to his own like struggle and with whatever's going on is probably like, I imagine in my mind, like that's strengthening that idea that Kevin is there, but he's not going to necessarily bring back anything meaningful for anyone else. The meaningful things he's going to bring back are going to be things that he has and that he will understand. So
I was a little I mean, I don't know, I have mixed feelings on the resolution of God and the character of whatever the fuck his name was.
David Burton.
I was expecting him to like play a bigger part in that episode, or at least the last 2 episodes. I don't know, it's hard without getting too like symbolic and metaphorical on what all that stuff means, because like you could look at it like, oh, him as the president is his current self being the ruler of his world, of how it is, and the assassin is the new Kevin, and the way things can be, right?
And new Kevin, I can't wait for that Home Alone reboot to happen.
Where Kevin time travels and kills himself, breaks into his own house.
Adult David Duchovny. That's the name. Adult Macaulay Culkin just ends up in the original Home Alone and kills him.
I know all your secrets, Kevin. But yeah, and then
Does he commit suicide?
He was punched.
In the past? If you kill yourself, oh man.
The Home Alone timelines is my favorite flowchart on the internet currently. But yeah,
it's just a really long straight line, then just one line that goes by. Okay, what's that?
Yeah, I don't know if if that is what God wants, and that is him rejecting that idea of whatever the fuck he wants, which is I think my biggest problem is like, unless it is supposed to be like there is no God or afterlife or anything or nothing beyond our understanding, and this was all things Kevin got very small smidgets of throughout his thing. It's his DMT going crazy at the end of his life. Like, I don't know. Neither of those really satisfy me with that setup with him, I guess, but the one that's worse for me is the idea that there is something going on and there's just nothing at all, and with that character. And yeah, and I can't really buy into the other one very much because like there's no way he could visualize what other officer murdered Kevin looks like, or even
Christopher Sunday.
Yeah, a ton of these guys. Like, there's no way he would, even if he heard stuff about them, there's no way he would see them or know what they look like. So,
Sure.
I have problems with both, I guess. That, and then honestly, I think a lot of your warnings probably helped, but I was very satisfied with how this whole thing wrapped up, to be honest. And obviously that goes in the caveat of knowing there was production shit and everything. But
you mean the show as a whole?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so that thing with David Burton, I think, was just my biggest, like, well, fuck, that was a letdown.
Yeah.
And everything else, I was like, oh, considering I knew we weren't going to get an answer, I was pretty happy with what answers we did get and the takes that it did show. And that's, yeah, more than I was expecting. I was expecting to come away from this thing pretty bummed. So at the beginning when you were like, all right, we're not getting any answers, and
yeah, no, well,
season 3 was rushed.
That's what I think is, I think regardless of like kind of whether the ending landed with you or not, I feel like this is like a really interesting show because of that reason. Like, I think the fact that they went 3 seasons and they were like, from the beginning, we're not giving you any answers to like the things that you think are the questions in this show, is really good. And I think like for the most part they stuck the landing. I don't think it's a perfect show by any means, but like I said, I think there's some really great moments along the way, and yeah, so I don't know, any other thoughts on Kevin before we move on to kind of the last episode, the Book of Nora, I think it's called.
What do we think about Kevin Sr., his whole reaction to the whole debacle?
I couldn't figure. That was another thing that I couldn't really like figure out what was going on there. His line, that's another one of those lines like, I don't think I'm ready to come down yet. I'm like, that feels like there's something there, like there's a meaning behind this that I am missing, and yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's like the one bit that made sense to me is like he went through this whole journey and religious experiences trying to prevent the end of the world, and then the world didn't end. So what the fuck now? And he's built his entire life on this belief, and now what? So maybe that just resonated a little too much. But, yeah.
But his son was still coming back from the dead multiple times too. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's not really the part that he bought into as the important part.
Yeah, well, and I think looking back at his episode where he's pissed that he's not in the book,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? I think it is one of those things where I think there's so much ego with Kevin Sr. that has just been unchecked for who knows how long at this point. Like, if you want to say that's where a lot of his like problems came from that landed him in the mental hospital, I don't know, but like there definitely is something going on there. And so yeah, I don't know, I think his character's probably supposed to represent like something more high concept.
I mean, they definitely foreshadow it in the first episode of the season with the whole like, this is the day that you're all going to be abducted to heaven. That's a weird way to say that, but
oh, you're talking about like the
past.
Yeah, the event in the past. Yes,
and it's because she's standing on the roof.
Yeah, I thought about that when that was happening. Yeah.
And so I I don't know. I feel like that's pretty cementing that. I mean, there's nothing spiritually important, at least in that aspect of at least how he thinks. And I also think that I'm not ready to come down yet is also kind of an indication of he's not going to change a whole lot.
So he's got to find something else to like. I don't know.
The math was wrong. It's 4 months from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either going to be that or just the fact that he is mentally insane and will have to deal with that for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about Nora real quick. So yeah, I want to hear what you guys think first, because I think I've mentioned this before, but I talked about this episode like the first time I finished this. It just happened that I knew someone else who was watching at the same time, and I remember asking a question about this episode, and they're like, "What?" And I was like, "That's not a question you have." And so it's like, I don't know. I'm like just interested to kind of see what you guys have or what questions you have.
Was
or
it
answers you
whether or
feel like
not Nora actually went through?
Yes.
With it? Yeah.
Yes. They like didn't.
They didn't think
they
that?
were like, of course she did. I was like,
Really?
What?
Oh.
I was like,
I-
I don't know.
I didn't think to question it until Justin brought it up.
Interesting. That's so
Because we had
interesting.
just seen all this shit with Kevin.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh.
like, and obviously once you brought it up, I was like, oh, duh. I'm supposed to question it, of course. But
No,
like,
but I think that's a valid and important, like, I
Yeah.
think that's super interesting, because that was like, when I got to the end of the episode, I was like, oh, the the point is you get to choose what you believe, and so choose the things that you know what I mean. Like that was the thing, and I just like, and I think that was like very specific to where I was at that point, and like maybe a message that I felt like I needed, and so I think that came from a very specific place, and so I do think it's interesting that people don't have that. You know,
That's weird to me because my answer was she definitely didn't.
yeah, no,
like-
I'm kind of with you.
My like when I watched it, I remembered you saying that, and I knew that was the thing.
Yeah.
That was the question, and I assumed your friend would also land where I landed.
Oh no, yeah.
Was no, because they show her right before she says something, before the water hits her head, and then it cuts, right?
It looks like
And that alone, I would just chalk up to like that being the you get to choose type of thing.
Sure.
But then they cut back to it as she's telling the story and saying like the words yes, and I went through with it. But then it cuts back right to that moment to where she says something, and to me that cut back was like the cementing thing of like she did not go through.
Yeah.
This is what. And this is the whole message of the show: is we tell ourselves what we need to tell ourselves to deal with grief, and that's what she did. She came up with this very elaborate story, but it helped her cope with something she had not been able to cope with, and realize what she wanted from this life, which was, I guess, to be with Kevin. And I don't know. That to me was like the satisfying because of what we have gone through with the whole show and how that's kind of been thrown out, particularly with her brother and his episodes, minus that last one, which was a bummer. But yeah, I think to me that was so definite to me of like, no, she didn't go, but it was like also a really cool thing too, because so much of the show is about like people doing that self-comforting and believing things with religion, where hers is done through a scientific avenue, which I thought was a really interesting duality to this show.
Yeah, I was thinking, I have a lot of similar thoughts to what you've said, and my mind went to, I think there was a reference earlier in this episode, or maybe it was episode 7, about like somebody said something about what is the better story.
it was the nun.
It was that's right. Nora's interaction with the nun, like what's the better story, and that took me to Life of Pi. So I was thinking like that was kind of the headspace that I was in there. Like what is it about the story that we tell ourselves or tell other people, and the truth, they can both be true. Yeah, so I was thinking about that kind of stuff. And then like I was also thinking that with Nora, so like this entire show has been about it's felt like it's been very critical about people who believe these crazy experiences that they are either seeing or hearing about. And in this moment, us as the audience, we're given an opportunity to like decide, or like, do we believe what we saw that Nora experienced? Like we think that she didn't do it. I would say she didn't do it, but she just told us this elaborate story that is also like satisfying this desire that we've had the entire all 3 seasons to know what's going on with like this whole disappearance thing. So like to hear like a resolution to that, like, well, yeah, these people disappeared, but they think we disappeared, and it's just this weird like cosmic split in reality or something. Like there's that in and of itself, like hearing that story gives us the opportunity to be in the moment and kind of experience what so much of this show has been about, or at least like kind of I don't know, for me at least, it like thrust it into my face a little bit more. Like I've been so like, of course these people are morons. Like in my own life, I oftentimes feel critical of the beliefs that other people around me have, and like I need to like I need to not do that, because like what is it in my life that I'm doing now that is like is that exact same thing. So yeah, that was the experience I had with that. And yeah, that moment kind of, I sort of really love this show now. I've loved it while we've been watching it, but that moment was like, wow, this is something that I don't think I've ever experienced watching anything else before. So
I had like a very similar reaction like the first time I watched it, and I was like, I remember watching it like through the 3rd season. I was like, people like, I don't know. I was like, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. And yeah, something about this episode really cements a lot of weird things about it for me. And yeah, I think that I mean, I think Carrie Coon, I think, is great. I think she's been great through the whole show, regardless of what you think of her character. I think like performance wise and like she's really fucking incredible. And I think that this moment and this monologue is like really just stunning, like incredible work. Damon Lindelof did say, so they did not, him and Carrie Coon did not discuss whether or not this was true. It's basically a decision that he left up to her, and they did not talk about it afterwards. And so, like, I also think just what a cool and incredible thing to do as a creator and writer is to then like literally just let go of the chemo of your show and put it in the hands of the actor who's been in the shoes of this character. I just think is pretty amazing. A couple other things, real quick. I'm sure we'll come back to this, but the other thing that I feel like some people have opinions and reactions about is that we see Laurie in this episode. And we've kind of discussed at the end of her whole episode, like when she went down to scuba dive, is that the end? Is that, you know, I don't know. Was that, how do you guys feel about that? Did that like change anything retroactively for you? There are some people who felt it cheapened the end of that episode, and I just can't like get on board with that. I just don't agree with it, just because I think the phone call at the end of that episode is like the real important thing in that scene. But I don't know what you guys, I don't know your guys' opinions on that, or if you do, I don't know, maybe you don't have strong feelings about that. But
I mean, I think I agree with you. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's for the same reasons. To me, that it's kind of gross. It's kind of a gross take on that. Mm-hmm. Like, the only satisfying conclusion for Laurie's story arc is her committing suicide. Like, that's really disgusting.
I agree.
I mean, and part of it too, in my opinion, is kind of a critique on the writing of that character. There's not really a good solid arc for her to go at the end, in my opinion. So like that scene kind of doesn't matter to me a whole lot. But like also, yeah, having so much of that character hang on her killing herself at the end. There's nothing previously in the show to make me feel like that's an important decision. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know, at least for me.
No. Yeah, no, I just, after this show ended, I spent a lot of times on like Reddit threads and stuff from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, like when this was happening. I was like, ooh, spicy. Like,
but I mean, like, the thing is, like, is she a good therapist now? Is she still?
No, I don't know.
Still really fucked up? Like,
I mean, here's the thing we know about Lori. She's good at keeping secrets.
Now she,
now
she wasn't before.
That's true.
Maybe that was the whole point.
Maybe
learn how to keep secrets. It makes you a better person.
Maybe.
Aren't you also like not supposed to therapize people that you know? Like, isn't that an ethical concern?
Supposedly, yeah. The families and friends discount is not a great discount to get from therapy. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Yeah. I do think it's interesting though. I think that it's and I don't know that I think that a lot of it too. I think a lot of people too. The other argument is that it cheapens the moment. Like they like the moment being left ambiguous, and that being a stronger choice, which I can get that more. And I do think it is interesting that there is such a solid that she is included in this episode because I could very easily see this episode without Lori.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do think it's an interesting choice. But yeah, I don't know. Anyways.
Well, it's pretty fucking wild. She knows Kevin's going to Australia. Like, that's an absurd commitment, a lot of time and money, and she knows. And is letting him be a detective.
Yeah.
Also, without warning Nora, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird.
So I'm gonna land on she's still not a good therapist.
And definitely not a good friend. I think we can.
Terrible ex-wife.
And apparently she and John got back together after she drugged everybody at the Last Supper. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
no big.
John's like whole demeanor through those like 2 episodes to me said like this man will go with the flow on anything.
He's just done, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Michael was kind of worthless.
Yeah.
Probably a production thing. Probably
Yeah,
they had to.
I think so. I think this is one of those things where you're putting together how much your budget and how many episodes you have, and you're like, well, these are the characters that are going to get the time. And sorry, Jill and Michael, and I don't know.
It's about time, Tommy.
Oh, thank
It's
God.
so long
we didn't have to have another scene with him. I was worried the last episode was going to be a Tommy episode. Would have fucking died.
That'd be amazing.
Can I just one thing that I
go
was
ahead.
thinking about. The scene with Nora getting into the device, that entire sequence. Have you guys? There's a documentary. I cannot remember what it's called, but it follows an older guy who he's got some sort of disease that over time is basically going to make it so that he won't be able to move anymore. He's gonna like, I can't remember if it's MS or something else. It's a neurodegenerative disease basically, and he knows what's going to happen. Like in order for him to even be at some point in the future, he will have to like have a device breathing for him just because his muscles aren't going to work anymore. And it follows him and his decision to go to Switzerland where he can legally commit suicide. It's about like medically assisted suicide. Mm-hmm. Have you guys seen?
No.
Does that sound familiar? I watched it once, and the scene with Nora, all of this stuff that she's going through, getting into the device, and eventually deciding not to go through with this experience, kind of took me back to the emotions that I had while I was watching this documentary about the decision to end your own life when you know that that's the only thing that is going to save you. I don't know, like the emotions that I don't know. I don't really have like a takeaway from this, but yeah, there's some really heavy stuff there, and it's something that I don't like to sit with because of how uncomfortable it makes me feel, but it's also something that like I think is important to dwell on and sort of like kind of just, I don't know, have the idea, the whole thought in your mind about if I was in this situation, what would what would my decision be?
Sure.
So, yeah, Nora's experience there kind of took me back to that, and just it felt very real, even with how elaborate the setup was and how wonky like all the sounds and everything were that were being made while she was in there. And it was just like, yeah, there's just some really heavy things there. Anyways, yeah, just wanted to share that. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but I'll try and find it and then I'll send it to you guys if you want to watch it.
Yeah.
It's kind of heavy, but it's worth watching, I think.
Yeah.
Man, all I could think about was wondering how much it cost to build that set for that one scene.
Yeah. Just some used Ethernet cables and
Well, but the giant
trailer.
fishbowl with the water coming in at the bottom and
Yeah.
They got some of those left over from Jurassic World. Call those guys up at Universal.
Oh yeah. If you look in the bottom, like towards the bottom, you can still see the Jurassic World branding that they've tried to scrape off, but it's still there. Jurassic World Live Containment Unit.
There's conspiracy theories online about like how they're interconnected. This is
Leftovers
all a big
is in the
experiment
Jurassic
from
Park
John
universe.
Hammond.
that's where they got the goat too.
What are they gonna do with the goat?
Don't feed me to the dinosaurs. You can talk.
Oh my god, they're putting people like you just disappear goats, and the goats that he's killing in the town.
There are a lot of goats. Yeah. This is to remember the goat.
Some
that
would
was
say
sacrificed.
2% of the population of this casting of the show is goats. Can't believe I was wrong about the clones and
I know. Someday, man. Just keep swinging.
and the
Someday.
female characters being real.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is one of those episodes where it's like there's like a lot to talk about, and then there's also just there's a lot to just sit with and feel.
Yep.
And so it's like
I mean, we already talked about like all the heavy stuff. I feel like the tone of episode 8 is really wild. Not what I was expecting to have. Like this weird
it's a great short film.
high school reunion feel to it.
Okay.
Like I felt like I was watching like something.
The thing I do want to ask is like, is that really a good tactic? Like Kevin's whole thing where he's like,
No, that actually I did want to talk about that.
That is a weird. To me, that's such a weird choice, and it feels like one of those things where it's like a choice that's made almost to throw you off of the idea of this being our reality early on.
I like to call it TV bullshit.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
It just wants the audience to be like, "What's going on?"
Yeah,
It has no real merit to the story.
Yeah, and it feels like one of those things where I'm like, fuck, come on, fuck off.
Katie and I were talking. We're like, this feels like a really glaring piece of bad writing in the show. Is Kevin
yeah.
being like, you know why I did it? I did it because thought if we pretended hard enough, it didn't happen.
You have to communicate with people when you're fabricating a reality.
You thought that would work?
We can't just yes and our past. Like
That jet lag is hitting you hard.
yeah, that stuff's really weird. And like that's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, if I was Nora, I'd be way more like weirded out and like freaked out by this, I guess. But they're a weird couple, so it works. It ends up working.
That's actually another thought that I had is even like with how stupid all of that stuff is with Kevin, and Nora's like she's just like going back to it now too. Like that's like there's this happiness of like they're back together, but how good is it that they're together anyways?
Yeah, I mean, I immediately thought of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It kind of,
Sure.
I don't know if intentionally it was, but it felt very much like that same type of like, we saw them go through everything, and we saw the bad, and we know how this could end up. Is it worth it to try and make it work again? And I know that's not the main messaging of that.
We gotta try. Yeah. Are you saying that Kevin watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind on the flight to Australia? It was like, this is the answer. He just like when he's there, he just a tape just falls out of his pocket, and it's like his fake interview that he's made that they do before they erase their minds.
I can see like Credits roll. Camera pans over. Patty's sitting next to him. That was a damn good show. You should try that, Kevin.
For some reason, I was thinking you were pulling out to an even more meta reality where Patty and Kevin are like married. It's like, that was a damn good show. And they start making out. Like,
Just they're on the couch in their house.
it's like, where does it end? Every time that you watch a TV show, it's like you're Kevin and you're going into the afterlife. Oh, man. But yeah, that the nun stuff I think is the
So weird.
The thing with the guy coming out of the nun's room is another one of those like it feels like this higher concept like religious commentary that has like a 50-50 chance of landing I think with people, but I think it's interesting. I think it's fun. Nora gets so pissed. That's the other thing is I'm like, Nora is just so mad at everything and just I don't know.
I was half expecting her to get up during the wedding and like tell everybody that those doves, like she owns the doves, and there she throws their messages away. That's kind of. Like, I thought that was gonna be her resolution to getting.
I mean,
over
did
all
anyone?
I could have seen that.
I was so confused why they were so worked up about the truth behind that. I was like, does anyone actually believe that those doves are going across the whole world?
Yeah.
I thought that was just a thing white people do at weddings, you know, like.
No, these doves have had several ribs removed so that they can make the
So they
flight
can make
across the
more
ocean.
female doves.
Yeah, they're
That's how you
yeah, exactly.
do that, right?
They're light enough they could do that now. So, God, I don't even.
There's so many things that yeah.
It's the world's worst callback. I don't even think that's on the episode.
It's not.
It's not, no.
Well, you're welcome. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I guess you guys, where do you guys kind of land with the show? I mean, we've kind of talked about it, but worth it? Something that you'd recommend to people, or I mean, not
Yes.
people listening to this. If they're listening now, it's like it's too late. You watched it all, probably.
I'm glad that we, due to a lot of circumstances outside of our control, have had to go so slowly through this as well, because I've appreciated the time to like digest and not have to like bump ideas out of my mind to make room for the new stuff that new episodes have shoved in there. So yeah, I think this show's great. I think that binging it would be kind of difficult just because of how much is in here. So yeah, I'm really glad that we watched this, and we watched it at the pace that we did too.
Sure.
Yeah, my recommendation is I really enjoyed watching this a lot more that we have a podcast for it to talk on. So I recommend people start their own podcasts. Get your friends, watch the show.
There's not
a
very many
lucrative
people
market.
that haven't started their own podcast.
Yeah, just talk about it on your podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
That you have already. But yeah, I don't know. Any closing thoughts on The Leftovers?
I'm sad and I'm angry, but I think I liked it.
Good. I feel
Maybe
like that's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
It's not like the anger you felt at the end of Game of Thrones.
Right. Different anger. I might just be hangry. I'm not sure. I really want a cheeseburger.
Fair enough. Well, God is dead. Dogman killed him. Nothing is
Dogman
real.
kill
Or Kevin killed it. Whatever.
No, Kevin killed God's main
Lover.
squeeze.
That's right. Yes.
Mary?
That's more questions with no answers. Who knows? Well, awesome. Well, we're going to live with the leftovers inside of us forever now, but the podcast will be moving on. We're just going to go back to watching some good old movies. Real art, not this TV shit. There are still people that think that, right? There have to be people who are like,
TV.
fucking TV. We're going to start. We're going to just kind of go back to each of us choosing a movie each week, but we're kind of going to go within a theme, or in this case, a directing team, I guess. We're going to be
They're one
watching.
entity.
Yeah, yeah, we're going to be watching Coen Brothers films that we choose. And I am going to choose first. So I am going to choose Fargo for our watch of Coen Brothers movies. Probably, I think, on the list of the most essential Coen Brothers movies to watch as far as kind of their style and all that. So that will be our next episode. We'll be watching Fargo and chatting it up about that. And if you want to reach out to us, talk about The Leftovers or Coen Brothers or fucking cheese fries. Not fucking cheese fries, just
Don't
cheese
fuck
fries.
cheese fries.
It's more than cheese in those fries.
You can email us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram or Twitter at rewatcherspod. We'll be back in just a moment with some recommendations for other things to watch. Love you. Bye. Welcome back to the recommendation section of the podcast, where we talk about some other stuff we've been watching, reading, playing, listening to, all that good stuff. I have a few things to recommend this week. I'm going to start with the thing that's actually from this year, which is a new show on FX called Reservation Dogs, which is a new Taika Waititi show that is basically set on an American Indian reservation, and it's all the characters from there. It is really fucking hilarious, and it's maybe a more brutal than a lot of Taika Waititi's comedy up to this point, but it's really good. It's a super weird show, and I think the first 2 episodes are up to stream right now. But I really recommend it. If you liked any of Taika Waititi's stuff, it'll probably be something you enjoy. So definitely check it out. The other things I have to recommend are video games that I believe are both 5 to 6 years old, and I've probably already talked about at length with most people here. But a couple weeks ago, I decided to get into Destiny 1. And I'm playing the vanilla. I rolled it back, so I'm playing 1.0. No, so I played Cuphead again a couple weeks ago, mostly because I never actually finished Cuphead.
Oh, really?
I got up to King Dice in Cuphead, and I remember trying it a few times, and for some reason I just fell off, and then I tried to go back a month later, and I was like, there's no fucking way. Mm-hmm. And it started itching at my brain a couple weeks ago, so I was like, I'm gonna start playing Cuphead again from the beginning. Shockingly, I got through the first 2 islands. I think it took me about an hour and a half, just because there was still weird muscle memory for all that shit. But man, I blew through that game. And I finally beat King Dice and the devil at the end of that. Then realized there was an expert, and then spent the rest of the week beating that game on expert, which I'm just glad my keyboard still works. But fuck, that game is really
You're playing
good.
mouse and keyboard?
No, I didn't. But I was playing it on my
computer. You gotta
computer.
have something to smash.
Yeah, I was playing it on my computer, and I did. There were several times I slammed on my desk, and I kind of hurt my hand hitting the corner of my keyboard. So, but yeah, that game is amazing. I just fucking love it, and it made me. I know that there's supposedly DLC happening at some point for that game. Hopefully, it comes out. But yeah, anyways,
that Netflix show first.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that exists.
Yeah.
Which
is that out?
No.
Oh,
okay.
I think it's way far from
Yeah.
being done because they've only released that one little snippet of oh yeah, Wayne Brady's in this, and here's this 20-second sequence of him.
Yeah,
and that's all they've shown.
But man,
Wait, are we still talking about Cuphead?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wayne Brady's Cuphead.
Oh shit, it's Wayne Brady's Cuphead.
I mean, you can understand my confusion,
Yeah,
right?
I get it. But yeah, a great game. Real punishing, but like, it is one of those games that's like, your mind figures out what you need to do and sees the patterns long before, well, at least in my case, long before my hands caught up to where I need to be with that. But it's such a fun game. It's like visually unlike anything else I've played. And yeah, fuck those run and gun levels. Have you done the pacifist runs of those run and gun levels? Fuck that shit. Fuck it.
No, I played through it just like a normal playthrough, and I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need to do expert mode on this. I know what this game is, and I love it.
Yeah, it's really great. So definitely recommend that. The other game I'm gonna recommend, pretty sure these came out like around the same time ish, maybe. But Stardew Valley, I've been diving back into.
Oh no.
The 1.5 update of Stardew Valley came out like a few months ago. I think it may be the final major update to this game, which Concerned Ape is like one of those indie developers. Is just, you go look at the thread of comments on any of his tweets, and you'll inevitably find someone who's like, hey, this update corrupted my save, and he's like, hey, DM me and so you can send me your save file. And then the next comment is like, holy shit, thank you for fixing my save file. Like, this man is more machine than anything. But
did his other game ever come out?
No.
The Hogwarts one?
Okay, so I think there's some confusion, because I think there is a Hogwarts-ish one, but he's not the developer on it. It's from the same Chucklefish is like the
Publisher,
thank you.
Okay.
Jesus, why can't I think of that? I don't know if that ever came out though, because I remember hearing about that.
That makes me less interested that he's not involved.
Yeah, but
because that sounded like, I'm like, this. Yes, I feel too late to jump on a Stardew Valley. I tried once.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I suck at that game.
It's a weird.
I didn't know there was a game you could suck
Right
at.
out the gate, I like killed myself.
Oh,
I didn't realize. It's like, you need food. Like, I didn't realize I had like an exhaustion meter. So I just started breaking up rocks in my yard. And it's like, oh, you're about to die. Get some food. I limp into town. And I can't find a place that fucking sells food. I do find a place that sells a bag of flour. I'm like, that's food. Use up all my money.
A bag of wait, what?
A bag of flour. I literally spent all my money to buy this flour, and I won't let me eat it.
you starved to death with a bag of flour in your hands.
I'm like, sweet, guess I'll die.
There's a little bit of a bump at the beginning of that game of kind of learning how it works. But man, I can't think of a game in the last 5 years that I've gotten more like enjoyment out of, and just fucking sheer time I've pumped into that game is insane. But honestly, it's my girlfriend just is like barely getting into video games and bought a Switch during the pandemic, like every other human in the world. And so she's been playing Stardew Valley, so we've been kind of playing it together, and it's just cool. Like, I've missed the last few updates, and going back to it, there's so many new things in it. Like, I just built a farm computer. Someone gave me a blueprint. I was like, what the fuck is this? And it's like this computer that tells you what crops are ready to be harvested, like if your farm cave is full of fruit yet, like, oh, just all this information. I was like,
that sounds like
this is amazing.
Street lingo for something. Your farm cave? What? What'd you say? Your fruit cave is what?
You have a farm cave that one of the local scientists is like, hey, can I come do experiments in your cave? And you can either get fruit or mushrooms. I chose mushrooms, obviously.
Gotta have mushrooms in your cave.
But anyways, it's a great game. Yeah, definitely a little bit of a learning curve at the beginning.
I mean, I'm an idiot.
No, but I mean, I will say, like, most of the people I know who play it haven't played other video games before and got into it just fine, but
that makes me feel better.
I will say, if you get to a point you're not sure what to do in Stardew Valley, just go to sleep. Just go to bed.
You cannot eat a bag of flour.
You can't eat a bag of flour. But yeah, great game. Check it out. The multiplayer is pretty good. Fun game.
Dude, I was so excited. I was like going out there. I'm like, gonna make my inheritance here. Gonna fucking get my farm, the best farm ever, and then it's like, oh, it's 9 a.m. and you're done for the day.
I mean, you're a city boy going to the country for the first time. What do you expect?
Am I mixing? Sorry, keep going.
No. I didn't have anything else to go.
I'm sorry. Am I mixing?
We're not
this
talking
game
about
up?
Wayne Brady's Stardew Valley.
Okay.
That's a totally different thing.
I think I need a nap. But am I mixing this game up with one where you make islands? And
That's Animal Crossing.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
yes.
All right.
An
People
update for
compare-
that one.
People compare those. I abhor that. I could not. Animal Crossing, man. That's some fuckery. I don't get it. All right. Gwen.
Like I said, I finished 6 books and okay, you guys saw Silence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you read Silence?
I did not.
Yeah, I know Justin read it. I read it after Justin first read it, which was about, I don't know, 6 years ago?
Yeah, senior year of college, so
Yeah, about 6 years ago.
2014?
So,
7 years?
But when I first read it, it was like a really good read, really cathartic, but I was also in a very different religious place.
Sure.
And I kind of wanted to re-experience it from my religious place now. And I just got to the end and kind of, it left me feeling empty, but like not in a, like, I don't know, it was a weird experience. So
That's how watching the movie was for me, because I watched the movie. I read the book senior year English, and at the time was kind of like early to mid faith crisis, and the book was very helpful at the time for where I was with God and everything. And then I watched the movie like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, where I've moved way past where I was when I read the book. And the movie, like, yeah, it's a fantastic movie, but I was definitely not like the audience for the message there. Which, yeah.
Well, like I went back into the book knowing that I wasn't the audience, but I still expected to feel a greater connection and love for this character this time around than I did before, and I just didn't. It was kind of a disappointing experience. So that's not the book's fault, though. That's my fault. Always with the expectations.
The death of joy.
Yeah.
Expectation. Ugh. I didn't even like that coming out of my mouth.
What's the saying? Don't expect anything and you'll never be disappointed. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in a mood
that a
tonight,
saying?
guys. Finished the Coley trilogy by the same guy who wrote The Girl with All the Gifts. It was a good time. I talked about it at length with my mom, and now I don't have anything else to say about it. It was fine.
So can our
A
listeners
good book to
contact
talk
your
about
mom
with your
if
mom,
you...
yeah.
Yeah, go talk to my mom. Yeah.
You can email her at Rewatchers on the Pod.
Yeah. Something that I am actually enthusiastic about is Clark. So Truman's turned us on to the artist Clark, and now I'm not going to be able to remember the album. But I also don't know how to talk intelligently about music, so just Clark, period.
Worth listening to, yeah.
It's I think I mentioned this album. Are you talking about the Underwater Playground?
Yeah, that one.
Is that what it's called? I think that's
I've
the
been
name of the
listening to
album.
the other ones too, but
Okay.
that one's my
Yeah.
favorite.
Recent album that he put out that the theme is climate change, but it's all he's an electronic artist. Yeah.
See, I couldn't have even told you that. I was just like, this sounds nice. I like it.
If you want to look like you know what you're talking about, Gwen, all you need to do is wear a flannel shirt,
Okay.
and then you need to rate it a 7
Okay.
out of 10.
All right. 7 out of 10. I'm going to go get my flannel.
And complain about the lyrics being you just weren't feeling the level of energy they were putting with what they were singing about, and then you're done.
See, there aren't any lyrics for the most part. So,
Then you just say Mad Hook a lot.
okay, Mad Hook. 7 out of 10. Would listen
Fucking
again.
nailed it.
Now I got to start a YouTube channel, right?
You'll be the busiest music nerd.
All right, I'm done. I don't have anything else to say. I have no words.
Tyler, what did you have to recommend for us?
Still playing Dark Souls 3. I started up another character, Dexterous Deborah. Just pumped all my stats into Dex. And,
How many fingers does she have now?
Not enough. It is funny that because you
needs to
collect
be
dried fingers in that.
That needs to be a thing in a game. The more dexterous.
Let's talk digits.
Oh man. So yeah, I got two characters going at the same time.
At the same time?
Well, like,
on two screens?
I'll like play
two
like
controllers?
3 sections with one character, then I'll stop and play those 3 sections with my Dex character. And man, I fought the Nameless King again this weekend. Holy fuck! I hate that guy. Hardest boss fight in that fucking game, dude.
I still need to do. I never beat that guy.
I've only beat him with summons, like summoning other players. I've never beat him by myself. I've tried so many times this time, and I was running out of embers. I was like, I'm not fucking running out of embers for you, bitch. I'm gonna. Hopefully, someone's still playing this game. And what do you know? There was. So yeah. Then I'm like, man, I want to get there with Deb so that people can see Dexterous Deborah. Then I was like, I need to make a new character, so I made a new character. He's a mage named Deep Fried Magic, and he's just as fat as I can make him, really pale, has like a Farquaad haircut that's pink, and I just make him run around naked with a staff, and he just casts magic. Hasn't gotten very far yet. Index Gundar at the beginning was pretty hard. Yeah, anyway, Dark Souls is great. Fucking love it. I'm just on that train right now. Also, really short one. My son got into Ninja Turtles. Thank God.
Fuck yeah.
And, dude, Ninja Turtles is fucking rad.
Seriously, dude.
Like, it's not like, I won't be like, oh, it's high art. Like, the narrative of the show is fantastic. But, man, I really missed my calling. I think my dream job is, like, making wacky toy lines in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Like, just the absurdity of the setting of that show. Like, obviously, there's the one thing that everyone knows of, like, you know, Splinter finds these turtles, takes care of them, and then, like, the ooze comes, and, like, the last animal you were touching, you turn to a hybrid of the two, I guess. But then I totally forgot about Krang.
Dude, yeah.
Is this being from another dimension who doesn't have a body, who's trying to convince this crazy ninja clan leader to build him a body. He gives him all this technology to defeat his enemies, but then he's too busy defeating his enemies to build this guy a body because he wants to usher in a portal to Dimension X to bring in all his friends so they can take over this dimension. Fantastic show.
So you're just watching the cartoons with Max, or what are you watching?
Well, first we found all my old toys at my parents' house.
Okay.
Played with those. He was pretending they were Street Fighter characters. I'm like, dude, Street Fighter's great.
What the fuck is your kid, man? He's fucking incredible.
Dude, he's so good at Tony Hawk now. Like, he can clear, like, the first 4 levels entirely, every single goal. Like, he's scoring, like, 100,000 on every level.
Awesome.
And I'm like, you're 3. What do you... He's putting together, like, manual combos into flip grinds, and I'm like, man, so proud. But, yeah, no, then I was like, we should watch the show. Nobody yet, so I just bought the first season, which apparently is only 5 episodes, which sucks. I paid way more for it than I thought I was getting.
And you're talking original. We're talking original.
The original cartoon. Yeah, fucking great. Something about, like, obviously there's the big debate on animation styles. I mean, I prefer those older ones. That one's really great. The voice acting too, man. There's just something about the deliveries of those. You can tell it's like these are adults and they're like not quite understanding how to not write
radical,
write for adults. You know, like they struggle with writing for kids, and it's great. Anyway, the last thing. Wait, no, not last thing. I watched Chinatown finally for the first time. Took me forever. It's been on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Bucket list. Other great Jack Nicholson movie.
I don't know if anyone said that. Yeah, classic movie. Been on my list for a long time. I think I wish I would have watched it a lot sooner because I've seen movies that have been inspired by it. I mean, the biggest one's Sicario. I think that, like, that's the modern day version of Chinatown and kind of the same messaging and everything. So, and I kind of knew that going in, and so it's great. It's just if you've seen a bunch of modern films, you've seen what that movie did for them before. I guess I don't know.
It's kind of like the Godfather problem. Like, everyone in the world has seen probably 25% of the Godfather without knowing they've already seen it, and so yeah, it's weird. But no, Chinatown. Some fucking great writing though. Some great lines.
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson. Oh man, now I'm not gonna remember the line, but when he's like, he threatened to cut off my nose.
He's like, I like my nose.
Yeah, I like nose.
Breathing out of it.
Yeah, it's just. Oh, he's great.
Yeah,
probably a super creep in real life, but man,
I mean, some of those things. It's old, so
yeah.
Some things feel weird. And then what was the other thing I watched? There was one more thing I watched. Shit. Documentary, Untold, the Malice in the Palace documentary that they just came out with.
I want to watch that. Yeah.
It's only an hour long. It's not like a Jordan one. It's like 10 episodes. It's good. I really enjoyed it. I've got some gripes with like what it's trying to say. I mean, it was good. It was insightful. I definitely oddly came away feeling bad for Ron Artest of all people.
Really?
Because I've never seen Ron Artest like outside of like
insane
post game interviews, so he's like out of breath and stuff, and like, but watching him just on his couch talking, I'm like, oh, this man has a few mental illnesses and like pretty severe, like, and they talk about it a little bit. Like he had a therapist traveling with them. I'm like, you might need more than a therapist. like I mean, that's the thing is like knowing the like young like not I don't know it super well, but obviously like Ron Artest didn't grow up in the most wonderful environment, and to have basketball as that escape, obviously he needed that. But like, I don't know if that's the best thing for someone like that. Clearly, from what we've seen of the Mouse in the Palace and other moments throughout his career. So yeah, that was a big eye-opening thing for me, because I just had this hatred for Ron Artest for so long, and I don't think this redeems him necessarily, but it is like, oh, I am a little more compassionate towards your situation now. More just his overall life, less so that specific event. But yeah, the whole thing is like, feels like it's trying to be like, we're showing you unshown footage, which it does, like some unseen footage, and interviewed some people, and it's like trying to be like, the players were in the right to beat the shit out of these people. And at least that's the messaging I thought it was trying to tell me. And I'm like, I don't really agree with that. Also without condoning anything any of the fans did. Like, I think those people, I think the biggest takeaway for me from that whole thing is the Pistons organization was not punished enough, or anything changed enough about that. I think they needed to have some things thrown at them a little bit more, and seen some changes in the league from that, as opposed to just punishing the players. Like, I've seen people be like, they suspended Rodgers for the whole season. That's outrageous. I'm like, no, that man went up into the stands and beat the shit out of the wrong guy. Like,
yeah, that's the part of that story that always gets me, is like, man, if you're gonna do that, like, at least make it worth it. Like, you know, that's
And like, Jermaine O'Neal's whole involvement is really weird to me, because they had legal sentences put against him too, and he finally got his like removed. But maybe it's just how they cut it. And I don't know if you're familiar with his involvement. Basically, a fan comes down on the court after Ron Artest comes back on the court, and this fan is super drunk and is like looking like he's gonna start shit. Like, he's kind of leaned forward, his fists are clenched, and if I remember correctly, Ron Artest lays him out. Like, well, he punches him, and then he's then taken away by like Reggie Miller and stuff, and he's no longer in that altercation, from what it seems to me. Jermaine O'Neal comes sprinting full speed at this guy, and he slips, fortunately, because he would have killed him, and then he floors him. And that didn't make sense. So maybe there's something I'm missing, but everyone online too is like, Jermaine O'Neal I'm like, Jermaine O'Neal was fine until he came flying in. Then to me, that he was like one of the worst offenders. I mean, obviously Steven Jackson's an insane psychopath. But anyway, yeah, I've talked too much about it. It's fascinating. Even if you're not a sports fan, I think it's still a very fascinating thing to watch, because it's like, it goes into like a lot of the legal ramifications and like how something like that is handled, just as an organization, how the NBA works with something like that, and how David Stern was essentially a like power drunk god. Yeah, super fascinating.
Do they take any sort of angle about like what's happened, like recent events in the NBA at all? Is
No,
that
I think
explored?
I kind of wish they would, because it just was released. I know they've like it's been done for a while. I think because they recorded everything. I don't know if it was pre-COVID. It might have been pre-COVID. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, I wish they would have talked more about what that is now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a complicated issue. It's like I'd say I hit about like 70% of like agreeing with the NBA subreddit on like like the main subjects of things. This is not one of those things. I feel like everyone has is buying into the documentary of what it's trying to sell 100%, and I am not there. I think it definitely says some interesting things, and has changed my mind about some things, but I think overall I'm still like, everyone sucks here. Like, this is not an okay situation for anyone, and a lot of people need to be blamed.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm interested in that.
It's great because it's short, so it's a pretty high recommendation, actually. I mean, I know I've made it sound like there's some negatives, but it's like I really enjoyed it, and it's short, so just watch it.
Cool. Justin, what did you have for us?
Just one thing real quick. Talked about this off of the podcast. I think the last time we were together, I have recently been playing just a little bit of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it's a buggy mess, at least on my PC, but it is still pretty fun. And even though it's got a lot of flaws, I think that the fact that I can hop in and attempt to fly a plane pretty much anywhere in the world and see generally what it looks like there is really, really cool. And yeah, I've had some fun. Just like the other day, my kids were watching, and I was like, they asked about the pyramids, and so we just hopped in and flew around the pyramids in Egypt.
What a time to be alive!
Like,
really
yeah,
awesome.
and then I just started flying. I think it was west of where the pyramids are, and eventually found like this place that I had like. It's just like I was in this moment of like, the world is really fucking big, and I don't know, like, there these people that I am never going to interact with live their own lives in this place I've never even heard of that probably has like millions of people that live there, and it's just it's really cool to be able to just experience that from my office. So yeah, give Flight Simulator a try. It's on Xbox as well as PC. I would definitely recommend doing it with, if you have a joystick, that's going to be a better experience than playing on keyboard and mouse like I am. Yeah, because keyboard and mouse, you're like piloting with your number pad over on the right side, and that just does not feel good at all to fly a plane that way. So yeah.
Also, if a pilot ever walks in carrying a keyboard under his arm to like,
yeah, because they have to bring their own.
Yeah, they have to bring their own sticks.
Yeah,
obviously.
own controllers to. Yeah,
It's better than an Xbox controller.
It's an Elite.
It's got the shoulder buttons. It's for emergency landings when the wheels get out.
Yeah, good time. And then
Just anytime we come up with like a character of like a government type job or something, it has a Jersey accent or like a Bronx accent. Like,
That's just 90% of the characters I come up with, just across the board.
oh, let's see. There was just real quick. I know I've talked about this a little bit before in the past, but I've been on an Apex kick again recently. And actually, I haven't really been playing too much of the Battle Royale mode. I've been playing their Arenas mode, which has been around. I don't know when they released it, but it's 3v3, and the maps are much smaller. It's like just your standard Arenas style gameplay. It's very much like you purchase your weapons at the beginning of the round based on like the currency that you earn through getting kills, and like each round you start with a certain amount of currency, so there's an incentive. Like the better you do, the more materials you can buy. Like you can buy more syringes or shield batteries or whatever, so like the incentive to do well during the rounds is high, obviously, aside from just winning. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. You actually get to play the game, and like the movement in Apex is so satisfying that like hopping into Battle Royale and dying in the first minute and having to re-queue and wait for that experience to drop and then you die immediately again, like that's not as satisfying as just like hopping in 3v3 and just running around and shooting people. So if you haven't tried that, I would definitely recommend it because it's a lot of fun. So
is it like deathmatch? Is there respawning or is it like
no,
one death per
yeah,
round?
Yep,
Okay.
it's So the revive mechanic is still there. So if you get knocked, then your teammates can revive you. But like the way the gameplay works, it's like once somebody goes down, the other team's going to be rushing in anyways, just because they have the advantage at that point. But like sometimes maybe your teammate can get the revive off, and yeah. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's really cool. The maps are there's a decent variety. Like I think there's like 4 or 5 maps, but like they all play very differently. There's one that's much more open, and so it lends its way like more like sniper long range kind of battles. And then there's another map that's much more close range, so you can like shotguns on that map are really good, or just like the light or submachine guns, I think. Yeah, it's really cool, and I've been wanting to play just a shooter, like kind of standard shooter for a while, and it doesn't feel like there's really anything out there that will scratch that itch. That it like everything is a battle royale right now, and that like yeah, that's cool and it's fun, but you spend so much time just waiting to play the game, and then like the quality of your matches it's total luck as to whether or not you're actually going to get to play anything. So, yeah, I'm really excited about the Halo Infinite multiplayer. So I'm hoping that's like something I'm really looking forward to. I think they're going to have a battle royale mode just because that's what you have to do right now, anyways. Especially because it's free to play. But I'm hoping that there's some more
I forgot it's gonna be a free.
Yeah.
Halo multiplayer. That's crazy.
I'm hoping that there's just gonna be some like standard Halo style gameplay in there because I've been missing that lately. So yeah, give Apex Arenas a try.
Awesome. All right. Other big note, next Friday is going to be one of the biggest nights in wrestling in the whole history of wrestling. So AEW Rampage, check it out. CM Punk is probably coming back. Yeah. It's going to be cool. But that's it. So next week we'll be watching Fargo. The next few weeks, 4 weeks, will be some Coen Brothers movies. So hang out with us and watch those. But yeah, you've been here with me, Tyler Harris, and
Gwen Hammer,
Tyler McKinley,
Justin Hammer.
God is dead. Signing off.